Oklahoma's new social studies curriculum has ignited a fierce national conversation, not only because of its contents but because of the political and ideological forces shaping it. Behind the curriculum stands a review committee that includes figures like Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank behind Project 2025, a vision for a second Trump administration, and media personality Dennis Prager, known for his conservative cultural commentary. Their influence has cast a long shadow over what is supposed to be a state's educational framework. Parents, teachers, and even some Republicans within Oklahoma have raised red flags. This is a deep red state, yet opposition to the new curriculum crosses party lines. Critics argue that the curriculum is riddled with inaccuracies and lacks adherence to best practices. Heather Goodenough, president of the Council for Social Studies, expressed serious concern, calling out the late-stage additions that failed to align with the evidence-based instruction essential for students. Despite mounting concerns, neither the Oklahoma Department of Education nor State Superintendent Ryan Walters has responded publicly to these criticisms. But Walters has made his stance clear. On April 29, he proclaimed on X, formerly Twitter, "These reforms will reset our classrooms back to educating our children without liberal indoctrination." He has repeatedly positioned the new curriculum as a return to honest, pro-America education. But the notion of honesty is itself under scrutiny. A glaring example lies in the curriculum's focus on the 2020 presidential election. Former President Donald Trump lost that election by both the electoral count and popular vote, 306 electoral votes to President Joe Biden's 232, and by over 7 million popular votes. Still, the myth of a stolen election, the so-called big lie, remains embedded in parts of the conservative narrative, now seeping into classroom instruction in Oklahoma. Numerous independent audits, recounts, and court cases have reaffirmed the integrity of the 2020 election. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency even called it the most secure election in American history. Despite this, the new Oklahoma standards require students to analyze supposed discrepancies in the 2020 election. They are instructed to review graphs and data involving the halting of ballot counts, mail-in voting risks, and statistical anomalies, elements often cited in election conspiracy theories, all disproven. This move has alarmed educators who worry that students are being led away from fact and into partisan myth. The events of January 6, 2021, an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol fueled by these very conspiracies, serve as a painful reminder of the real-world consequences of misinformation. Trump's false claims didn't stop in 2020 or after the attack on the Capitol. Throughout President Biden's term, Trump has continued to sow doubt about the election's legitimacy, misinterpreting court rulings and misleading the public. At one point, he falsely claimed a Pennsylvania court decision supported his claims of a rigged election. It did not. Most of the more than 60 lawsuits Trump and his allies filed were dismissed, and contrary to Trump's assertions, many were decided on the merits. Even prominent Republicans and conservative judges rejected his arguments. In a survey conducted by the Public Religion Research Institute in 2023, about one-third of Americans still believed the election was stolen. A majority of those believers were Republicans. Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, who once stood by Trump, eventually acknowledged that there was no proof of massive fraud. "Nothing before us proves illegality anywhere near the massive scale that would have tipped the entire election," he said. Still, proponents of the Oklahoma curriculum argue that it promotes critical thinking. Sarah Parshall Perry of Defending Education applauded the curriculum's focus on analysis, stating in a Fox News interview, "Don't we need more of that in American education?" But critics argue this isn't critical thinking, it's political manipulation masquerading as education. Not all conservatives are supportive. Former Oklahoma Attorney General Mike Hunter, a Republican, filed a lawsuit on behalf of families and teachers. The suit alleges that the state's Department of Education bypassed required processes when approving the new standards. It seeks to have them declared invalid, null, and void. The plaintiffs argue that the standards harm students and teachers alike. Teachers face increased burden, they say, because the curriculum does not align with existing textbooks or with national academic standards. It's not just a logistical problem, it's a pedagogical crisis. Democratic lawmakers have also pushed back hard. Right now, The state superintendent is not focused on improving education outcomes or increasing funding for our public schools, said Cindy Munson, the Democratic House Minority Leader. Instead, he's solely focused on boosting his own partisan political agenda. Oklahoma's political environment amplifies the controversy. The state is heavily Republican, with nearly 52% of voters registered with the GOP as of January 2024. Trump remains popular here, winning the state in 2024 with about 66% of the vote. Republicans dominate both legislative chambers. Superintendent Ryan Walters, appointed in 2020 and elected in 2022, is no stranger to controversy. A former history teacher, Walters has made it his mission to infuse conservative ideology into public education. From pushing Bible lessons to endorsing religious charter schools, Walters has promoted policies that blur the line between church and state. This year, he proposed requiring proof of U.S. citizenship or legal status to enroll in public schools, a move critics argue targets immigrant families. He has also pushed to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from schools, aligning himself with Trump-era directives. These developments are part of a broader effort to reshape public education through a conservative lens. Supporters call it a course correction. Opponents call it revisionist, exclusionary, and harmful. The conflict in Oklahoma is not isolated. It's a microcosm of a national debate over the soul of education, what we teach, who decides, and whose values are reflected in the classroom. In the end, this isn't just about a new curriculum. It's about trust in institutions, faith in democracy, and the role of truth in our children's futures. What happens in Oklahoma could set a precedent for other states. The question is, who gets to write history, and will facts still matter?